right? Sorry, I'm losing track of mine because my machine is not running. Apologize for that. So we have those differentials, right? We have those differentials going on at this point. Good afternoon. This is RTC. I think I just ran this, but we're going to start it all over. Anyways, because I think I just got it rolling. It's RTC, Richard the Schwalik, and I'm going to be talking about Defeatism and Dependency in reference to white fragility, which is the title of the show. The title of this episode is Defeatism and Dependency. And that defeatism and dependency go together for a number of reasons. First of all, they both start with DE, and they also go together in a number of other cases for a number of other reasons. And what I'm talking about today is punditry, okay? Punditry when it comes to understanding those terms, because we get those from pundits, and they come from, conservatives usually have come up with these, and they use those to try to destroy arguments about racism. And whether that is real or not real, systemic racism, whether it is real or not real. And I have a problem with that because, first of all, I think they're disingenuous when they do that. And they're using it as a way to avoid the reality of what has happened over the last, 400 years, right? And generally, and then 220 some years in the United States itself, or 234, whatever it is, depending on what you're thinking, constitutional order. 1776. So we have those issues going on for a long time. We're not dealing with those very well. One side wants to almost totally pretend there's nothing ever happened, hardly ever, and that, of course, it isn't happening now. And then the other side, which side I am on, I'll just admit you right up front, I would think you'd know that just from the title. But, think that there are still things going on because underneath there's stuff nobody sees, nobody knows. I'm listening to a book from about Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill, written by Jane Mayer and Jill Abramson back in 1995 about the confirmation process and the situation where she accused him of these things and all the other information that's basically in that book about what happened and what they knew at that point about Clarence Thomas. And very revealing. And I didn't know all these things. I didn't realize a number of them. I was around during that, and I watched some of it, but I don't keep a detailed memory of everything that happens in any given day, and I don't read every book. I didn't read that book until I'm starting to read it right now. So that's 20, 30, 25, 26 years ago. So we don't know everything. We can't know everything, especially in real time. It's tough for that. And so people can keep information from us. We can keep information from ourselves. We can compartmentalize what's in our head and just not tell anybody and kind of keep it away from ourselves. And then, our spouses, our significant others, our kids. I never kept anything from my parents. I want you to know that. That's not true. We do that. And so we have to realize that there are things going on that we don't know are going on all sides, of course. I can't, it's not just liberals are doing less of that necessarily. Might be, and I could say they are, but I don't have any data points to show all that for all of us, right? So we have these things that we don't let others know about, and we couldn't let others know about everything because we don't have enough time in the day to do what we want to do, let alone tell everybody and get everybody else's information. So we're data deprived, and within that data deprivation, we can fool other people with that. I have the ability at times, not all the time, but to go up to people and tell them something that is totally ridiculous and crazy almost. And I can tell them that in a straight face. And I can just say, hey, you know what? There's an alien on your nose, and I'm not going to say anybody else, but you should have something to do with that. Okay? I can do that, and they'll go, no, there isn't. Really, there is? And it's not something that crazy, I hope. But they'll do that. Well, why? Because your brain cannot know everything before somebody comes up and tells you it. You just can't. And so we can be fooled so easily. And we want to be fooled so easily because our minds want to take it in, and we want to be right, and we want to be on the right side. And to be on the right side, we want it to follow in the footsteps of what we've always thought. We don't want to be totally surprised that the world is not flat, or the world is flat, or whatever. When everybody else knew it, or our side knew it and I didn't, we want to believe that we know what our side thinks. And it's tough not to fall into that. But the way to get around it, first of all, is to think about a logic format, okay? Think about a logic platform, a logic foundation of where things have to set on. Because if they don't set on this logical foundation, they are more likely to be, not true. That doesn't mean that you always get it right, but if you can set up that logical foundation and say, okay, if it doesn't fit this, I'm going to be suspicious of it. Versus, there's blue sky out there, my eyes are seeing blue sky, I'm going to believe it's blue sky and move on with my day. Okay? Other situations, you're not going to have that good of information to go with, and you're just going to have to go, okay, from what I know of the past and how things usually work, things that, are dropped from high up, fall to the ground, I'm going to make these assumptions and these things and move on with my day. Because once again, you can't research everything. You can't go, is that sky really blue? Let me look into this. No, it's a waste of time. And sometimes we say that for things that are very important, and that's not good. And defeatism and dependency are terms that we have been coached into understanding what they are by people using them in references to things that we either believe in or don't believe in. So if we don't think the use of defeatism, and it can be used for a number of different things besides in the setting of the color of someone's skin or racism, which isn't really a thing, but it's what we call someone that thinks there is different races, because there aren't. It's just we're different colors and different things and ethnic groups, and so we use these terms to easily get an idea of what's going on. It's simple. It simplifies our life, and to some extent, we need to simplify our lives, and we do that through words like this. Conservatives like to use those, like death taxes. Oh, you've died and they get to take money from you. It kind of gives you that feeling of this is worse than it maybe is. I could call it happy crap taxes, and maybe that wouldn't help you at all too, but you can change the name of it and things make you feel fairy tale taxes or something, right? And maybe it'll make you feel better, right? But conservatives use that because they know that will make people upset and angry, and it's pretty easy to make white people angry about stuff, especially white men. The testosterone we've got in ourselves, and we roid up too much and shit, and then we become fragile and we start to tear up when people mention, that there maybe is racism. No, that's not true. I don't agree. You kind of get fragile. Can't deal with it. Don't tell me the truth about our history. I don't want to hear it. We're just exceptional, and that's all I'm going to think about. Oh, golly. We do that kind of thing all the time. And that makes us susceptible to things like defeatism. And nobody is defeated, like they say. Personal responsibility kind of goes into this grouping for dependency. If you're just personally responsible. I hardly ever use the word personally responsible, right? Because, duh, you got to be personally responsible. You have to go out. You have to be personally responsible to get through life. But that's not the only thing that you need. And you can have a lot against you. My sister has a disability. She has cerebral palsy. She needs more to get through life than I do. In various ways. Not in every way, but in various ways. She does need more help, advantages, this or that. And you can say, tough luck. I don't say that. I'm not an asshole, right? But some people think that. Well, she can't make it. That's why we have eugenics or something. I don't know what you say when you're that sick. But people that say that shit, right? That's where you get that kind of stuff. They don't want to help other people. It's not their problem, right? Take care of your own. You shouldn't have had any kids. It's all those kinds of things that I don't want to help, so I can make up all kinds of reasons. And dependency and defeatism are those kinds of reasons. It's like victimhood. Defeatism is in the same way as victimhood. It's just added on. It's more of a global word compared to victimhood. Victimhood is more emotional and personal, and defeatism is more of a general thing. Like communism isn't one person, it's ism, which is a group, I guess. And so that's why they use those terms. There's one reason why conservatives use those terms. But they also want to gloss over everything with that. The idea that there is discrimination wouldn't be that bad if, give or take 1% people are discriminated against. There should be 15% of African Americans, Black Americans in every job, and there's only 14.98. That probably wouldn't be discrimination, even if it was 14.98 in everything. That probably wouldn't really be a big deal. But when it's 3 times the number, like somebody is in 3 times the number of people are in prison that are a darker skin, there's something wrong there. Now, it can be wrong one side or the other or in between, but there's something wrong there when it's 3 times. Some might say it's intelligence, might say it's genetically based. I wouldn't. I think that's racist. I believe it is racist because there's really no proof to that. So why would it be occurring? Now, are they just defeatist because it's 3 times? Is it dependency? They got hooked on dependency of some kind, so then they get involved in crime? They, once again, whoever they might be, which is Black Americans in this case, is that why it's occurring? And if you complain about that, you're defeatist when you're pointing out a fact, and you want to solve that situation, you say you're defeatist if you bring it up? See, there's a problem with that logical framework when you put it on top of that. So my sister should pretend she isn't disabled in any way and just float out there like she's got nothing wrong? That works because it worked for you. And personal responsibility, you know what? Sorry, I'm jumping to other terms. But it fits with this, okay? Dependency. Personal responsibility and dependency are dependent on each other, right? But how can you be personally responsible? Okay. Stephen Hawking, I don't know if you remember who that is, and he's been gone 4 or 5 years, 3, 4 or 5 years, something like that. He's in a wheelchair. He was a physicist, theoretical physicist, and he worked on these problems like black hole and all these things, okay? He was dependent on a lot of people. But should we have helped him get around? Should we have given him machinery to help him talk, to type? Is he illegitimate? Is he dependent on people? Dependency? Is that a bad thing? And so you got to watch out when people use these words. Because first of all, they have other meanings. But they're also used to cordon off people right away. Oh, defeatism, they're gone. Get them out of here. They said something true about their situation, and we call it defeatism. Well, you're just complaining. And we can't complain for a group. We got to complain only for ourselves, because then that's personal responsibility. So you can only talk about your individual situation, and then the personal responsibility person goes, personally, I did it. Why can't everybody else? Well, you don't have cerebral palsy. You are not of a different color. You're white. Well, that doesn't mean anything. I just tried hard. Really? That's all there is. Trying hard. I mean, it's just so, people to simplify stuff. You ever heard of Occam's razor? It's usually the simplest thing. Well, that matters in hardly anything really. I mean, it does some things, but not in a complicated situation like society. Society can do all kinds of things. Nazi society did all kinds of things, people. And you can't just be personally responsible in a Nazi society. And I'm not saying the United States is Nazi. I'm just saying that you can't be just personally responsible anywhere. That's not the only thing that can happen. And when you start putting people in defeatist and dependency situations, you're doing the same thing. I might be a defeatist today, but tomorrow I'm not. So to call me a defeatist all the time would not be right. The same thing with calling a group this, or somebody that's seeing problems in society and they want to try to help. And personal responsibility is not enough. Why weren't we just personally responsible in 1775 and not go to war with Britain? We should have just been all personally responsible and it would have been just fine. Why did we get all upset? Oh, some taxes were raised. Deal with it. Be personally responsible. I mean, how can that be used then? How was it so important back then? And it's not important in this situation. And that's another framework that you have to look at. You can't give yourself all the framework you need and then take it away from everybody else because it's inconvenient to you. I mean, you can do that, but that's what's called being a white person. That's what we do. We've always done that. We can't face that, so we become fragile and have to backlash against everything because we're threatened. We're threatened by everything. It's amazing. Christian, you hear conservative Christians? Oh, we're persecuted more than any Christian's ever been persecuted before. Look at this lion on my head. Oh, God. It's like, no, you're not. You're just losing some of your power, so then you've got to feel like you're persecuted. You're just getting some of it. What goes around comes around, right? You can imagine if you were a slave owner and all of a sudden you were beating slaves every day, and the next day, all of a sudden it was Emancipation Proclamation or slavery, June 19th, Juneteenth, and everything was different the next day. And people still had the memory of you beating on them. You would get what's coming around and pounded on you, pound around, right? I mean, you would be done with. Right? You'd have to pay for that. And if you pretend that it's not a big deal that you're beating your slaves every day, when that day comes around, you're going to get it. And that's what comes around, people. And so if you don't see what you're doing wrong and you quit admitting to, you say that it's not happening, you want to call everybody defeatist when they complain, that's wrong. It's wrong. But you've made up your mind already and you can't get out of your own face. You know, you can't tell yourself anything true anymore because you have to protect yourself against all the lies that you've created underneath you. And we have to watch out for that as a country, but we don't. We continually stumbling into it. It's something that we got to take ownership of and say, okay, let's fix this. You know, our founding fathers did not do that with slavery. Oh, it's going to be gone in 20 years. I'll be dead. I'll get all my money. Yeah, great. Thank you for that. They left us the Civil War. Thank you. And so what are we going to leave? Oh, well, nothing going on. We're good people all the time. We're good white people. No. Why would you say that? Because you don't get to just say that. And you probably aren't overall, because just because you don't know what's going on doesn't mean that you aren't harming people, right? If you're just not doing anything to help anyone, you're harming people because you could have lent a hand, you could have done this. No, you can't. Once again, you can't paralyze yourself in bed, but you can't just say, it's not my doing in everything all the time because I'm personally responsible. No, so what? You're selfish then. A real personally responsible person would then be selfish. Right? If it's all just you, about you, what you do and what you've done, then you're selfish. And that's also bad. And I think that's why I probably stopped. I started this earlier and my stuff wasn't running, so I don't know if I've kind of repeated myself today. My name is Richard the Schwalek. I'm just saying, think about stuff, please. Just think about what people are saying and what it really means, and that maybe there's some other facts out there that you have not found out about and that you've ignored because your group says that it's not true. Look at both sides. I don't do a lot of looking at both sides, but I do enough that I go, okay, that is what they think. I thought maybe, no, okay, there's a few things. Yeah, maybe not. I can see that why they say that, but what about this? And things like that. You can't read everybody's other stuff all the time because then you wouldn't enjoy life. Got to have some confirmation, right? Otherwise, it's pretty abusive. But you should have some of it so you can say, okay, this does kind of rock my world a little bit. Maybe I should rethink this a little bit and come up with a better plan. It's hard to do. Not everybody can do it, but maybe you can. Maybe you can dig out something new and deal with it in a real way that isn't just, oh, I know I was right. I love those points when you can say that, but it's just all the time would then not be a good deal. So take care, and we'll try to make this smoother tomorrow, maybe.